Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tea Time, episode 1. It is an exciting day today. It's Friday. That's enough to celebrate, right? Woo woo, party, Friday. Everybody's saying we're watching on our work break. That is so exciting. Welcome, everyone. Let me do some shout outs. I want to say hi to a couple of you guys. Wolfgeist, welcome. It's so nice to see all of you guys. Gloria Crotty. We've got Verita Wallace. We've got Robin Gable. We've got Margaret Pate from North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. We've got Noreen Olson from Tampa, Florida. Kyle just got back from Florida, actually. Were you in Tampa or were you?
We went to Miami.
They went to Miami. West Palm Beach.
It's too hot.
Too hot. Too hot. We've got Star Raymond from Michigan. I'm seeing so many familiar faces on here. So happy that you guys are here today to join us for something we have never had on the show before, I don't think, and that is bobbin work. So with Tea Time, we want to share lots of new tips, tricks, and techniques that you can learn and that you maybe haven't heard before. So we've got bobbin work today, and what better way than to have the one, the only Joanne Banko on today? It's just who needs to say any more, right? So let's get started with that. But before I do, I just got a couple announcements real quick. So obviously you're seeing us on a Friday. So that means that we have got live shows going every single day of the week as of today. So make sure you guys tune in. SMP time is 10 a.m. PST. That is when you will always see us on YouTube doing something, learning something new. You'll see me, you'll see Blaine, you'll see the whole crew, Kyle and Roger. We got Roger and Kyle here too. You'll see the whole gang all week, and we are just so excited to be able to spend some more time with you and do some more fun things, because what better way than learning something new with all of our favorite friends, right? Alrighty, so just letting you guys know of all the different shows. I'll just list them off real quick. Mondays, we have Sew Club with Sew Steady, so you can tune in to learn all different things. A lot of it is ruler work and mainly quilting based. And then we also have Takeover Tuesday on Tuesdays, where you'll see different guests coming on and taking over the show. Stitch Nation, we've got more learning, more things going on. Thursday is Blaine's SMP Live. So Monday through Thursday, we've got all that going on. And now we have tea time going on Fridays. So always something going on. It's just, what a week we've had. And I know some people have been watching every single day. I'm always behind the scenes, so I can see all these exciting people on, and they're all pumped and ready to go. Ann Philbeck said, just cut my Sew Steady table. We love Sew Steady tables. They are amazing. But let me just stop talking over here and let me get Joanne on here, and let's talk about bobbin work.
Hey,
hi, Joanne.
Kelly.
How are you?
Happy Friday to you.
Oh, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to all of our sewing friends here. It's great to be here. Always great to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on. Now, a lot of people were asking, what is bobbin work? So I thought this is just perfect. You're the perfect person to show us. Oh, and we've got someone else here real quick.
Woo,
Come on
in. Surprise.
Who do we have here?
Hey, Joanne.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
She said, how are you? You're in my ear, so we're going to do a little messenger.
Good to see you.
Hey, hi to everybody out there, and hi, Joanne.
See you next week.
We're all smiles over here. It's Friday.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's so great to see so many of our friends here today.
Yes, a lot of them. Before we even went live, we're talking about your Let's Go Sew. They were all saying, have you guys seen her on Let's Go Sew? So talk about that real quick before we get started, and where everybody can find you after today's show.
Okay, very good. Let'sGoSew.com is my website. That's where I say sewing enthusiasts want to visit so they can be inspired and learn how to make the most of their machines. That's what I'm all about. Education, inspiration, information, all those things wrapped together, make a better life for all of our sewing friends out there. Yes. And the main thing is really and truly learning to make the most of our machines so that we're getting our money's worth, no matter what level of sewing machine we have, no matter what our budget is. There's a lot of gold in there. And you just need to know how to get it out and use it to make beautiful projects for yourself and for gifts for others. So
awesome. And today's show is just a snippet of Joanne's knowledge. So head to Let's Go Sew and you can learn so much more and just go sew.
You can find me on letsgosew.com. You could also find me on YouTube at Let's Go Sew with Joanne Banko. A lot of my It's So Easy TV episodes are on there. And then I have a lot of live shows and a lot of things that I'm uploading there as far as techniques and things like that too. So
awesome.
Always a lot of follow-up information for you to find as well. I do it's a newsletter, but I call it a love note. Those are my friends here that are on my email list. It's a letter to friends basically every weekend. And I always recap whatever I've done during the week if I've done a live show. So if you're on my email list, then you will get a recap of this show as well. And I always put in extra resources because you know how live is. We're like zipping through everything and zoom, zoom, zoom. And a lot of people like to have not only a video, but have written material as well.
Yes.
So I'll be posting some extra material for that. So
awesome. Perfect. Well, okay. I'm going to go ahead and let you get started. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to write some comments down and we will go ahead and get started. Take it away, Joanne.
I'm going to explain a little bit about bobbin work, show a few samples, and then I will be switching over to the machine. So I'll give you a little heads up when I'm ready to go there. Okay.
Awesome. All right.
All right. Terrific. All right. So everybody, I'd love to hear if you've ever even heard of bobbin work. let alone tried it. If you've tried it, you get 2 stars. If you've heard of it, you at least get 1 star. But I've just always been a fan of bobbin work. Believe it or not, this dinky little sample, it's a little wrinkled. I had it in storage. This was my first attempt at bobbin work. So many years ago, I can't count, at least 40 years. I see Ibby, you've loved bobbin work, but haven't done it. Anne says she's heard, but not tried. So I'm going to give you all the clues today. What I want you to know, first of all, is that Marie, you don't need to be scared. It is really, really an easy, fun, and really a beautiful embellishment technique for so many different projects. But this little sample here was done on a $200 machine about 40 years ago. It had maybe 10 stitches altogether. It was a mechanical machine that had a front load bobbin and nothing fancy. Now, how in the world did I do bobbin work on that? Well, bobbin work, first of all, is like you think, bobbin work. All of the thread that you want to use for embellishment goes in the bobbin, not through the needle. And the beauty of bobbin work is that you can use thick decorative threads, even yarns. You're going to see me show a whole bunch of different options today. Things that would never, ever, ever go through a needle. They weren't designed to go through a needle, and no sewing machine, no matter what top end it is, will take those types of threads in the needle. However, if you have a bobbin case that is adjusted to accommodate thicker threads, you can simply put that thread on a bobbin, and then what you're going to be doing is stitching upside down. So I like to call it upside down stitchery, because your bobbin is the opposite side of where you normally top stitch, and that's where all your decorative thread is going to be. So again, you can do this on any machine. The key is you have to have an extra bobbin case. So when I did this on that dinky little 10 stitch machine, I went ahead and bought another bobbin case. It was a metal, the front load. Some of you still have those types, but some of you remember that. And the front load bobbin cases, all metal. Every bobbin case has a screw on it. So what I had to do was get a second bobbin case to play around with so that I could adjust the screw. Now, you're going to see me use today. I'm a Brother ambassador, so I work with Brother machines, and I've got a special bobbin case that Brother makes for virtually just about every machine they sell. It can be used. So let me put this one down, and I'm going to grab a real quick sample here. If you don't know already, I absolutely love jean jackets. I've got embroidered jean jackets behind me from my Just Jackets embroidery design collection, but I love to embellish jean jackets. And there are actually some machines out there that have built-in bobbin work embroidery design. So I've got some on the yoke here, and then I've got some on the back here. Now, that's not quite as popular as doing bobbin work on the sewing side of the machine. So we're going to cover the sewing side of the machine today, because again, I wanted to do something that everybody can do no matter what your capability. But if you have bobbin work designs built into your machine, the rules, the principles, the techniques that I'm going to show today will all follow along with that as well. But I also used then decorative stitches. You can look at that collar. That is just a simple decorative stitch in the machine, a very common decorative stitch. It happens to look a little bit like a star. And that stitch was done with another decorative thread, which is actually called Candlelight Metallic. Now, I'm going to be throwing out some names here today, but again, once you get the principles down, you can use just anything that you find that works. And again, that's all going to be according to the principles. So is it like red work? I see a question. Is it like red work? Well, in the sense that it is done with just a straight stitch. And yes, you could mimic red work that would normally be done by hand by using bobbin work. So again, once you see it, lots and lots of potential. And Patty bought bobbin work designs years ago. yes, there was years ago a whole collection. I said it just kind of fell out of favor as far as embroidery designs. Maybe someday we'll see a resurgence, but I hope so, because I love doing bobbin work both on the embroidery side and on the sewing side of the machine. So, yep, jackets are so much fun to embellish. Jean jackets are my favorite go-to embellishment canvas, because there's just so much space, so many places on there, and so many things that you can do. All right, so let's talk about some more samples. In my little intro, I said you can use this on so many different things. So garments, crafts. Here I have just some little sachets. And I really recommend, when you start experimenting with this technique, that you look into doing just little simple things. And that way, you know, it's more forgiving. If you make a mistake, no big deal. You start with a new piece of fabric and, you know, you're fine. Don't start your first bobbin work project on you know, an expensive item or something that can't be replaced. But little sachets are really fun to make. And this, again, features just simple threads. I happen to have a lot of threads in my repertoire that were decorative serger threads. So check Sewing Machines Plus for serger threads. And, you know, any of those are virtually foolproof for doing bobbin work stitchery. But I'm going to show you other things too that you can find just about anywhere. But these were actually threads that were normally designed to be used in a serger. There's like fuzzy kind of yarn threads and then shiny threads. And I just used decorative stitches and straight stitches. And I'll be talking more about that. I will definitely be showing you how to do it. So no worries. I just want to show you a few samples first to give you some ideas and inspiration. There's just another sachet. What's really fun to do, if you look close here, is to mimic the look of a plant stem and then add those flowers on top of it. And, you know, some of you have been sewing and doing embellishment work for a long time, and you may have some experience with hand embroidery. And if you have experience with hand embroidery, you might think that some of this is, again, mimicking that. Silk ribbon embroidery was hot stuff in the 80s. And some of you may remember that, but that also, you know, does kind of have a look like this, but this is so much easier, and you're able to use the decorative stitches in your machine. Here's another little sample. This is just a little child's hat, and this is stitched on polar fleece. And for this particular sample, I used this yarn. Now, I'm not a knitter. If you're a knitter out there, you probably know the terms and all that better than I do. But to my knowledge, this is called sock weight yarn. So I guess it's like a yarn that you would knit socks with. Makes perfect sense. That size of yarn is ideal for bobbin work. So again, take a look at what you have. This exact thread was wound on the bobbin and used with decorative stitches to create this look. And it's kind of fun to take the ends, and instead of cutting them, just leave a length there, tie a knot, and create a little tassel. So again, I hope I gave you a few ideas there. Another great thing to do bobbin work on is to decorate towels, because again, this whole look makes it look like you did something by hand. And in fact, if you don't tell, they don't know, they don't ask. It could be very easily assumed that this was done by hand. But this particular design is like a redwork style design from Brother iBroidery.com site. But what I did to kind of tie the color scheme together is I took grosgrain ribbon and did my bobbin work on grosgrain ribbon, and then simply just top stitched it right to the towel. So that's another great idea. And again, in my follow-up weekend post, I will have links to these projects so that any of those that have instructions, you can find that, and you can, you know, go ahead and do that. So here's another one. This is, again, just very simple thread. Now, this one is done with a thread called pearl cotton. And I've got a chunk of pearl cotton here to show you. That's what I'm going to be stitching with today, because pearl cotton is something you can find everywhere. It's not a specialty thread. It's a thread that's found in the departments where you find hand embroidery thread, and you can find it in many, many, many colors, either on a skein or on an actual, roll. But I'm not going to give you like real numbers today, because it really the numbers of the thread and the thickness of the thread is a little bit irrelevant. What really matters is how it works in the bobbin. So I'm going to be showing you that. And really, if you follow my principles, so many things are fair game that you don't have to look just for something really, really, really specific. Okay. Oh, I see so many of you making some great comments, and I'd love to say hi to everybody, but I want to keep going and show you some more samples. So on this particular piece, all I did was stitch this on a piece of firm cotton, and you're going to see me most of the time, I'm going to need to stabilize the fabric. So you want to make sure you do that. And then I just simply added some lace and top stitched it to a fingertip toe. Very, 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 very easy. Another fun thing about bobbin work is if you like the frilly kind of fussy look, there's a lot of, ways that you can make it decorate items like this apron. It's a little hard to show on screen, so I'll show you just the bib part, which is the main focus here. And what I did, let me get this so it's not cockeyed here, is I drew right on the apron bib just a very open work style of what might look like a little sprig of flowers and dried flowers and some fresh flowers and some greenery. And then I just used those lines to follow along with the actual bobbin work. So very, very easy. And then I just used an open decorative stitch to stitch around the edges there, tie the color scheme together with a little ribbon tacked on, and you've got something, plain that is now very pretty and very, very fancy. Okay. All right. So I think we are about ready to move over to the machine and start some stitching. All right.
Hi, Joanne. I will go ahead and pop back in while you get your camera all ready.
Very good.
Perfect. All right. You guys, are you guys excited? I'm just sitting here looking at all of those samples, and it is just, everything is adorable. And I love how she said, it looks like hand embroidery. We can keep it our little secret. I don't remember who said. Someone said it'll be our secret. Lady Fair was, it'll be our secret. You made me laugh with that one. Everybody's saying cute towel. Hi, Barbara Curtis. Hi. I know her from our San Marcos store. Farida said, are you kidding? How can you do so much beautiful work on a sewing machine? It's possible. The possibilities are endless. They're endless. All right. I think Joanne is back. So let me see if she is ready.
I'm ready.
Perfect. All right. I'll get out of here and you guys have fun with Joanne.
Okay. Very good. So let's start again by talking a little bit about the threads. So I've got a few different examples here. You saw the yarn, and I'm going to try to see if this has a number on it. I don't see a number on it, but it is definitely labeled as super fine yarn, and it is very, very thin. I've got my example of my decorative serger thread called Candlelight Metallic. I've got some just, who knows where it came from, novelty yarn that came on a spool. So again, check the areas where you find hand embroidery threads and see what you see there on the shelf, and see if it's suitable. What you're noticing so far, hopefully, I'll show you the next one here. I think this is called Razzle Dazzle. If you take a look at all of the threads that I'm showing so far, they're all consistently the same width. So that's number one principle that you want to look for. You can't have a slubby type thread. It needs to be perfectly even and perfectly smooth so that it is able to go through the adjusted bobbin case. So that's number one. Now this one has just a little bit of texture, but again, if you look at it, it has consistently the same you know, the same thickness to the thread. So there's no worries as far as it going through and getting caught anywhere. Same thing with the yarn. Now, another yarn that another thread that is very commonly available is crochet thread. If you crochet, you probably have a lot of this already and maybe never have thought to use this in your sewing machine, but you absolutely can as long as it goes in the bobbin. And then you saw me with the pearl cotton. I don't know where there it is, my tangled mess of pearl cotton. Don't do as I say and not as I've done. Make sure that when you unravel this, you unravel it the way it should be, so you're not getting anything all tangled up. I'm kind of bad at that with pearl cotton. But I would recommend, if you want to start, that you go ahead and get yourself some pearl cotton to start with. If you have some of these other things on hand, fine, that's good too. But if you have nothing and you're starting from scratch, try to get just some ordinary pearl cotton and use that for your first attempt, because it is virtually foolproof. And again, it's even consistency, very smooth. And any of these threads that have a little bit of gloss and glisten to them tend to, you know, have even a little bit more splash to them. All right, so let's talk about bobbin. Now, I promise you, you can do this, bobbin case rather. I promise you, you can do this with any machine. You saw my little sample here done on a inexpensive old mechanical machine. But if you have the opportunity and you have a brother machine that is compatible with the bobbinwork kit, or you have a bobbin case that already came with it, there are machines that in the brother line that already came with this bobbin case. This bobbin case is very distinctive. It is colored gray instead of black, like your traditional bobbin case. It also comes with a screwdriver that tells you right away you are going to be playing around with this screw. So you can't be shy of that. You have to realize that in order to perfect your bobbin work, you are going to be playing around with the screw. But the bobbin case itself has already been pre-adjusted. Unlike a standard bobbin case, it's been pre-adjusted to accommodate the thicker thread that you would use in bobbin work. So your first step, if you don't have this opportunity, is to go out and just get yourself a secondary bobbin case. Whatever type of bobbin case your machine uses, get that secondary bobbin case, and then I will give you some tips on how to adjust it so that you can use the thicker thread. Now, we're all used to winding bobbins on our machine with standard ordinary thread, and we use the bobbin winder. I'm going to tell you that the safest way to do this is to wind by hand, although I will tell you that I have taken cones like this and I have put them on my standard bobbin winder, set my bobbin winder at a very slow speed, and stood there with the thread as it wound off. I bypassed the tension on my bobbin winder so that it wouldn't be squeezing the thread, and it just loosely went onto the bobbin nice and even. So you could try that, but just be really careful when you do that, because it requires you to wind that bobbin very evenly, very smoothly, and very slowly. And it's not a good idea to do that with something like this or like this, because how in the world are you going to hold that on the bobbin winder at the same time that it's winding? So I'm going to show you first off how to wind that by hand. So I'm just going to take a blank bobbin, my little package of blank bobbins, and I'm going to do it with the crochet cotton. Okay. And what you want to start by doing is taking your bobbin and locating the little hole that is there. That hole, we, on a lot of machines, we have to feed that through the hole, but a lot of our new bobbin winders don't require that. I want to get that up through there. That. right into there. And sometimes that part is a little bit tricky. If you have dental floss threaders, I didn't bring any handy here today, but if you have a dental floss threader, that can work for you to get that thread fed up through that hole. Get that in there. Okay, just like that. So you want to get that up through the hole. You want to hold onto that tail. I usually just put my finger on it, and then you want to hold the bobbin and you want to wrap the thread going away from you, just like this. So just nice and smooth, not tight, not loose, just a nice, consistent winding right around that bobbin. Now, while I'm doing this, I will tell you that when you do bobbin work and you do very many different rows of it, you are going to run out of bobbin thread pretty quick. So keep that in mind. Again, I tend to like to do use bobbin work on shorter areas, because if my bobbin thread runs out, I'm going to have to stop and I'm going to have to tie off that thread. And that can be a little bit tricky with decorative stitches because we don't want to have it stop at a half of a pattern. So kind of keep that in mind. You're better off doing this in short rows. I'm going to go ahead and pretty much fill this up. I don't want to overfill it, but I'm going to fill it as if it was a regular bobbin full of thread. Okay. Don't be concerned if you're just a little bit crossing over there. It's okay, because the way this is designed to work, it's not meant to come out of the bobbin case with full normal tension. So it's not going to be as critical for you to have a real even and smooth bobbin. So once I'm done, I can clip that thread, and then I'm going to clip this tail that I fed through the top very, very close. So the only reason I really needed that was to get my thread started. Without that little tail, I really have no control over winding that thread. So I'm going to set this one aside, and I'm going to show you just another sample here so you can get an idea of what kind of stitches you would use for bobbin work. Now, you certainly can use a straight stitch. In fact, I'm going to start with a straight stitch so that you can see how the thread should be adjusted and what kind of tension adjustments we need to make to both the bobbin case and the upper thread that we're using. But if you notice, all of these stitches are very open. I have no satin stitches and I have no decorative stitches that are close and tight together. So that's another principle that you want to follow. Be sure when you test out bobbin work that you only use stitches that have a relatively open characteristic to them. And then I also like to increase my stitch length, usually by one little beep on the screen or 2 beeps on the screen. It will change the look slightly, but because your thread is thicker, it's going to give more room for your thread to move across that area and not get jammed up anywhere. So there you go. Again, you can see the effect of these decorative stitches. Now, you could also do what I did on the sachet, which is stitch a decorative stitch and leave yourself a tail and then move over to another spot, and we'll deal with these tails later. I'll show you how to do that as well. But that allows you to create like individual little motifs with the decorative stitches. All right, so let's talk about getting that bobbin case in. Now, you're going to have to open your throat plate. So I'm a little bit spoiled here. I'm working with the Brother Luminaire, which has the ability for me to simply pop this little lever, and my bobbin case cover pops right off. Now, my machine actually is hollering at me right now. We all know that little, little smiley or sad face that comes up and tells us if the machine is happy or not happy. But it doesn't really want me to do this with the machine on. I'm going to disobey my machine today and plow ahead. That's just a safety feature. But I'm going to need to lift this off. So if you didn't have this feature, you would be taking off this half of the throat plate. Or I'm sorry, yeah, you'd be taking off that piece so that you would have access to the front area where your bobbin case actually sets in. You need to be able to reach in there and remove your existing bobbin case. Now, this is a great time to clean out the fuzzies. So if you haven't done that for a while, get your little lint brush out and maybe a little vacuum cleaner nozzle and swipe that away. Now, if you do have the type of throat plate that requires screws, the first thing you want to do is take those screws and put them in a very safe place, because I don't want you taking those up with your vacuum cleaner or losing them. You don't want that to happen. But I'm going to need to leave that open, free and clear, so that I can put in my secondary bobbin case. Now, again, this is going to require a little bit of testing. I've already done some work with this bobbin case, so it's probably going to be pretty well adjusted. But once we put it in, I'm going to show you the principle of how the thread should move out of the actual bobbin case. Now, if you haven't done this before, you want to be very careful. You want to make sure that your bobbin case is sitting perfectly flat in the machine. And most machines are going to have a little arrow and a little dot where you line those two up. I don't know how good you can see that, but I have a little white dot here and I have a little white arrow here. And you want to make sure those are matching. So those match, the bobbin case is flat. And then the other thing you're going to notice is if your bobbin case is in and you're using the top loading, if it's in properly, it should have a little bit of a wiggle to it. Now, if you're using a front load bobbin case, you put it in the same way you normally would. No difference there. But this is a whole lot easier with top loading. And I think probably the vast majority of everybody watching today has a machine now with a top loading bobbin case. So now I'm ready to put my cover back on. Okay, and then I like to just take the hand wheel. I've already got my needle threaded, so I'm going to hold on to that. And just do one full turn by hand, because if you've maybe haven't gotten that in properly, you're going to notice now that things are not running smoothly, but everything is running perfectly smooth. So let's talk about what we put in the top. I've just got a standard ordinary sewing thread in the top, and I've got just a regular embroidery needle in the bottom, because I'm going to be doing embroidery stitching. That's normally for embroidery threads. You could also use your decorative embroidery thread in your needle. You can also experiment with the clear monofilament type of thread if you want to. But what I want to do when I'm doing this for real is I want to match my needle thread to whatever bobbin embellishment thread that I'm using. I'm purposefully using a contrast today, but if you use the same color thread in your needle as you have for the decorative bobbin thread, you will have a more smooth, consistent look to your stitch. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that bobbin that I wound with Pearl Crown Rayon, and I'm going to insert it just like I would normally. When you're using this type of bobbin case that is already pre-adjusted for thicker thread, you're going to go ahead and go through the tension. Now, some of you may have experienced bobbin work before, and you may have seen some instructions tell you to bypass the bobbin case. That is an option. However, your stitches are much looser and less consistent when you bypass the bobbin tension. So my preference is to actually put it through the tension and then simply do any adjustments to the tension on the bobbin case to give me that consistency for whatever I need. But that just gives you a little bit more control. So I'm going to go ahead, put it right through the tension like I normally would. I'm going to go through as if I were doing the cutter, except I'm not going to cut. So if you have the brother system like this, normally we would swipe the thread here and trim it off. I'm going to leave that tail there. I'm going to put my bobbin case cover back on. And by the way, I've got on my specialty bobbin case cover that has markings on it for lining things up. But the main thing you want to see is that the bobbin case cover that comes as a package with the bobbin work, optional bobbin work kit, and most of our newer bobbin cases, the cover for that has little notches on it. So if you see, I'm just putting my fingernail on there. They're little raised edges. Older bobbin case covers were perfectly flat, and they found that when doing bobbin work, the bobbin needed just a little bit more pressure held down because it was a thicker thread. So pretty much most of the newer ones are like this, where it has these little notches or little nubbies kind of that will hold that bobbin case down just a little bit tighter. If you purchase the bobbin work kit, it will come with a separate cover for you to use that. It's not essential, but let's just say it's helpful. All right, so now I'm just going to use my needle up, needle down, send the needle down, send the needle up, and pull that thread up. Now, here's where you really are going to have to use a little bit of common sense and judgment for adjusting the tension just to get you started. But when I pull on this thread, it should pull very, very, very easily. We're all kind of used to feeling a little bit of tension on our thread when it's in the, normal thread, normal tension. But watch how I pull this, how effortless this is. I'm not having to struggle. It's not tight. It's kind of like Goldilocks porridge. It's not really tight, but it's not really loose. It is just freely moving out of the machine. Now, I've already kind of used up a lot of that thread, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to take this bobbin out, and I'm going to rewind that just so that I have more thread on there, because I don't want to lose any of that thread. And then you can see me again, put it right through the tension, all the way through. And if you do cut it, no worries. You'll just have a little bit of a shorter tail. We like to leave a longer tail for bobbin work because we're going to need to tie off that tail at the end. So again, I'm going to put it down and up. Pull that up. And now I'm going to go ahead and snap on my decorative stitch presser foot. And hopefully if you have any pressing questions, we can get those answered at the end here, because I'm not able to really watch all your comments while I'm doing this. And by the way, if you have the type of bobbin case cover that requires you to use the screws and unscrew that plate, you will do yourself a big favor and get this little gizmo here, the specialty screwdriver, because that allows you to get into those screws in those short areas. It can also be used then to use your needle or your foot here, and then flipped around one more time. This will work on your embroidery hoops. And Lady Fair, I'm using just standard, ordinary sewing thread, but you could use embroidery decorative thread. You could also experiment with monofilament thread if you like. All right, so I've just taken my fabric, and what I've done is I've stabilized it with iron-on tearaway stabilizer. You could use other stabilizers, but think of this in the same way you would think of doing embroidery. You always stabilize your fabric to beef it up so that during the stitching, you have some extra body. Now, once I'm done with this, my decorative stitching isn't heavy or thick or dense like embroidery is, so I can completely remove this stabilizer. So I like an iron-on tearaway, a regular tearaway, or a wash away, something that I can get rid of when I'm finished. When I did that little baby hat, I used a adhesive-backed wash away stabilizer so that when I was done with that hat, I could throw it into the wash and everything would dissolve away. All right, so now remember, we're stitching upside down. All of the beauty is going to be on the bobbin side of the machine. So our right side needs to face where the bobbin is. The other beauty of this is that you can take and draw whatever lines you want to make. So you saw some examples of my embroidery work done with bobbin work. Well, I have made lots and lots and lots of samples in years past where I maybe drew a flower on the back of my fabric, or drew leaves, or drew a motif or a shape. And then I stitched my bobbin work just by straight stitching along that area. And when I turned it to the right side, it really mimicked exactly what I had with that embroidery work, because those are just simple shapes done with straight stitches. All right, so I'm going to start with a straight stitch, and I'm going to increase the length to about 4. This is what I recommend you do to start off to see if you need to change the tension on your bobbin case. All right, and get my foot control into place here. It always slips under the table on me and I can't find it. And I'm going to take the first stitch just slowly, very slowly. Okay, now when you get to the end of any bobbin work, you want to stop, raise your presser foot, and you do not want to use the cutter, okay? If you have to put a piece of tape over that cutter to prevent you from doing that, do it. Whatever you need to do, make sure that you don't cut that thread, because your automatic thread cutter is designed to automatically cut ordinary thickness of thread, not heavy thread. And I don't know what could happen if you do that. So make sure you don't use your thread cutter. All right, I'm going to pull this out. And I always want to leave a tail. And I'm going to take a look at that. And that is pretty good. But if you could see it really close, you would notice that I'm seeing a little bit of my needle thread. Now, if that was the same color, it would pretty much blend, and I really wouldn't need to worry about that. But if I'm seeing a little bit too much of my needle thread color, what that means is I want to increase my tension. So for most bobbin work, I will increase my tension starting at about 2 numbers higher than normal. So normal for my machine is 4. I'm increasing that to 6. And this time we'll go ahead and we'll choose a feather stitch, which is another recommendation for the most forgiving decorative stitch you could possibly pick. Bring my sample back up here so you can see it. This is done with a feather stitch. You can do a feather stitch with almost any bobbin work thread you can think of, and it will virtually always come out beautiful. Now we could change size of our decorative stitch as far as, you know, width, but I recommend that in most cases you're going to want to leave it at the maximum width and then increase the stitch length. So my normal stitch length for this particular stitch is 2.5. I'm going to increase that. Again, like I said, I usually hit the button twice, hit the key twice. I'm increasing it to 3.5. So I've got my tension now on 6, my stitch width on 7, and my stitch length on 3.5. Now you want to, again, use those stitches that are more open because they're going to need a little bit of room for that decorative thread to flow. And let's take a look at that and see that. Again, I can see just a little bit of that blue, but with matching thread in there, that would work just perfect. If my decorative thread looks too tight, it means I want to take that bobbin case out. I'll use this one as an example because this is the one we know we don't touch. But if that thread looks a little too tight, I'm going to use my screwdriver and I'm going to turn the bobbin case screw a half a turn at a time. So just watch where it's at. I would turn it so it would go all the way 1/2 turn and then try it again. If my thread looks loose and sloppy, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to take that screw and I'm going to turn it to the right 1 full turn. So left is loose, right is tight. We all know that. And then I'm going to test it again to see what it's going to look like. So you can see you're going to do definite testing. That's why I recommend starting off with an inexpensive thread and scraps of fabric so that you can, you know, just see what kind of effects you get. And then you're also going to need to test for every time you change your thread. You may find that you've got pretty much the same thickness of thread every time, and you won't have to mess with those tensions at all. But that's as simple as it is with decorative stitches. Feel free to explore, experiment with all of those decorative stitches that have that open style. I like to increase the stitch width as much as possible if it's not already to that size. And then I like to increase the stitch length and increase my upper tension just a little bit to give that nice smooth look. So now when we're done, what we're going to need to do is bring this top decorative thread to now what is our wrong side. And usually you can do that by just pulling on your needle thread, and you'll get a little loop, and you could pull on that loop. Now, if you can't do that, if your thread is too, too tough to get through to the other side, or your fabric is a little thicker, then what you want to do is just get a large-eyed needle and poke that needle through. I don't have one handy, but if you have a large-eyed needle, you can poke it through your fabric till it comes out the back side, and then thread the eye of that needle with the tail of thread and pull it through. I like to poke my needle through before I thread the eye because it just seems easier to me. But once we pull that to the wrong side, we're going to now hand tie this in a knot. And I like to hand tie this usually 3 or 4 times. Just, not too tight, not too loose, just so that you're able to anchor that thread and tie it off. And then the last thing I will do is use some sort of seam sealant to just give that a little bit more security, because some of these threads are quite slippery. And even though I'm tying them off in a knot, they may tend to want to unwind from themselves. So I use just, fray check, seam sealant. You can get all of that at Sewing Machines Plus. Give that just a little dab. Be very careful. You don't want it to soak through your fabric. And if you're not sure if it's going to harm what you have there, then go ahead and test that seam sealant in an inconspicuous spot before you do this. But once you're done with that, you can clip those tails. We would go back. We would do the same thing in the beginning end. So I don't think I mentioned this, but you also do not want to do an automatic tie off with this stitch. So the 2 things on your machine that you're going to remember most are don't use automatic tie off and don't use the automatic cutter. Neither one of those options are good to use with bobbin work. There you go, there again. And when we look at it from the right side, I've got a beautiful, beautiful finish. So let me pop back over and see if you have any questions for me. All right, let me take a peek at the comments. I don't know if maybe Kennedy grabbed a few. Let's see.
Hi, Joanne. Let's see some comments. Okay, let's see here.
So it really is very easy. You follow those principles. Again, I'll do a follow-up post, and I'll have all of those listed in a bullet point, so you won't be able to get off track.
Yes.
It's so easy if you're just willing to experiment a little bit. And we're using very inexpensive materials. We're talking for pennies. You're able to create
some things you might even already have. You might already have, some extra thicker thread that maybe you couldn't use on a previous project. Yeah, great way to recycle. It's awesome. Let me see if anybody has any questions, comment them down below. Sandy Collins said, can you do this with twin needles?
No, you don't want to do this with a twin needle, because remember, everything that's going on as far as the decorative side is happening on the bottom. So your twin needle would just be giving you 2 rows of straight stitching, and it's not compatible, let's say.
Yes, exactly. I know some people were asking what kind of foot you were using, and I know you mentioned it was a decorative stitch foot.
It's
but
the end foot.
Yes, I was going to say for brother owners.
Let me clarify a little bit more on that, because if you're using a different machine, what you want to find is the foot that was designed to use with decorative stitches. And let me tell you why. That foot has a channel on the underside, unlike your regular sewing foot, which is flat on the bottom side. So using a foot that has a groove or a channel allows it to flow over those thicker, heavier decorative stitches. And when we're doing it with bobbin work, our decorative stitches are even heavier because we're using that thicker thread. And I did see a question on stitches. You know, every machine has such an incredible menu of stitches. You know, whatever you have, just take a look. And the criteria again is, I'll bring up my little sample. That stitch needs to be, I say relatively because, you know, that's the best term, but it needs to be relatively open, meaning it doesn't have a lot of stitches that form close together. Satin stitches are out. Forget those. Cross those off your list. But virtually any other decorative stitch that has a little bit of space in it as it's stitching is fair game. So just take a look at your own menu and see what looks good to you. The absolute most foolproof, can't go wrong, can't miss stitch is the feather stitch. And it's gorgeous with bobbin work. And you could do just rows and rows and rows of this on any item you choose, and it would look absolutely beautiful. But remember, again, we're working from the wrong side. So if you wanted to take your marker pen and draw a pattern or draw swirling lines, you could do that easily. Absolutely. And yes, Verita, your tension does need setting. You're going to use a little bit of a tighter tension on the top, and your bobbin case is going to be set loose enough that that thread can just reel right out of it. I'm going to grab my bobbin case again, and I'll just hold it up with the thread in there. I'll pop a different one in here. Just go through the tension. And when it pulls out, it should just pull out really, really easily. So this is a kind of a prime example. This thread is a little bit thicker than this thread and a little bit coarser. This was the crochet cotton. So I know that I'm going to need to take my screwdriver, and I'm going to need to loosen that screw just a little bit more so that when I pull on this, I don't have any tugging at all. It should just reel out very, very freely. And in this example, I'm having to pull just a little bit for that to come out. That tells me that my tension would need to be set a little bit tighter. Let's see. I see somebody asking about cross stitch. Well, cross stitches are a relatively open stitch. So yeah, I've done cross stitches, built-in cross stitches on the machine with this decorative thread. I mean, I can see some of the light bulbs going off for everybody here because they're thinking about the look, and they're thinking about the stitches they have. And I know many of you have done hand embroidery. So you're thinking about, wow, what did I do, you know, when I did hand embroidery, and what can I do now with my machine to mimic that? Oh, Linda, that's a great question. Linda asks, can this be used with quilt templates? Absolutely. Quilt templates, stencils, coloring book patterns, anything that has a clear outline. You simply draw it on the wrong side of your fabric and, you know, mark it on there and follow that line. Again, remember, I'm going to show you just a couple samples of things that were done from the embroidery side. Just remember, you don't want anything too complicated. Now, this was done in an embroidery mode from a built-in design on a Brother machine. But when you're stitching on this manually, you're going to have to stop and start and pivot. So if the more open it is and the less intricate it is, the easier it's going to be for you. Although I'm not afraid to do intricate either. It just means you're going to stop and start a lot and pivot around in order to stitch right on those you know, more detailed patterns. Okay. Ms. Zina says she has a whole box of feet she doesn't know how to use. I think you're going to have me back on this show, and we'll do a foot frenzy.
Yes.
We'll just go through feet.
I know everybody was saying we need a show about sewing machine feet. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get one scheduled up in the near future, but definitely. I mean, this is just a technique that I think everybody should at least know a little bit about just to amp up your projects. I mean, it just makes a world of a difference.
We're getting some great questions, so I'm gonna answer a few of them while we're here. If you draw a design, do you need to drop the feed dogs? That's a great question. You don't need to, but if you wanted to do this technique with free motion, I did not mention that, and I'll tell you why in a second, but you can also do bobbin work with free motion. So if you are used to dropping your feed dogs and you know you're the mover and shaker where you're moving the fabric under the needle and creating the pattern of the stitch, go for it. You absolutely can do that. In fact, the Brother Bobbin Work Kit comes with a PDF of designs that you can print out that you can do free motion with. I am a very poor free motioner. It's just one of those areas in sewing that I just kind of avoid. I love the opportunity to do stippling in the hoop and edge to edge designs and all those things that for me personally are difficult to do with free motion quilting. But if you're a free motion quilter, go for it. Absolutely, you could do it. If you're experienced with that, you don't have to worry about intricate C because you're already used to doing that. It's just a little bit more difficult for me. Neva asks, what about stretch thread? Well, I've never done bobbin work with stretch thread because you want, again, that consistency. And the threads that I showed you today don't have a stretch factor. If you have a stretch factor, when it goes through that tension, it's going to stretch and unstretch, and you don't want that. You want something that's very, very, very consistent. Another thread that I've used, I don't think I have a sample of it here, but that you also may want to try is silk ribbon. So if you can get silk ribbon in the 2 millimeter width, you can also hand wind that on the bobbin, and that makes really beautiful bobbin work. So Beth is asking, have you used ribbon? The criteria, and I probably should just reiterate this a little bit here. I'm going to grab some craft ribbon that I have. The criteria is that it needs to be soft and smooth and reel out very easily. Craft ribbon like this, even though it's probably thin enough to work through the tension disc, it's too stiff. So take a look at that as opposed to this. You know, you've got a lot of flexibility with the threads that I showed you. So this would be a do not use. However, silk ribbon is very soft and very flexible, and I have done some beautiful bobbin work with silk ribbon embroidery. So needs to be flexible. Needs to be, you know, all those principles need to come into play. Okay. If you did shows about feet, you would have almost a year's worth of shows. Yeah, that's true, Patty, but we could do just an overview of some of the most popular feet for sure. So, and I see Neva has silk ribbon, yards of it. Give it a whirl. It's really, really great. And again, I just want to reiterate, I am a Brother ambassador. So Brother machines are the ones that I have in my repertoire and the ones that I have used. But I will tell you from my past years, past experience, I have done bobbin work on many different machines. You only need to get that secondary bobbin case, whatever it is. It could be just an ordinary bobbin case, but you have to be willing to adjust that screw. If you've got a Brother machine and you have the opportunity to get this one, you are already way ahead of the game because you won't need very much adjustment at all. On a traditional bobbin case that you're using as a secondary, you're going to do quite a bit of experiment, and you're going to find that you're going to loosen that screw considerably. In fact, let me give you just one more tip on that. Be very careful when you are loosening that screw. That's why I said always do it a half turn at a time. If you get kind of crazy with it and you start, you know, really twirling, that screw could come out. It's a very short screw, and small amounts of movement on that make quite a difference on the tension. So you don't want to have that little screw come out and then have it fly somewhere and not be able to find it. Okay. Can you finish the knot with a surgeon's knot? Mary Mike B. I don't know how to do a surgeon's knot. Maybe I'm going to have to look that up and see. I just use the hand tied. Anything that will stay put. So any kind of knot that you like. Sometimes I'll go one step further, and after I've knotted it and put that little bit of fray check on it, I will take a tapestry needle and I'll weave it underneath those stitches. Again, if you've done hand embroidery in the past, if you've done needlepoint or anything like that, that was always a technique that you did to just give a little bit of extra security to your tails. And Cindy, I'm glad you learned so much. I'm glad I've energized you to try this technique. It's a whole lot of fun. And obviously, you know where to get a hold of me at letsgosew.com. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me, and I would be happy.
Yes, I know some people were asking about some notes for after the show. So if you guys, she had mentioned at the beginning, but she's got a newsletter that you guys can sign up for, and she'll have notes.
Yes,
and all that.
You sign up at my website, you will get my weekend recap for whatever I've done during the week and all of that extra information that you might need.
Joanne's love notes.
Exactly. And as far as like, if you have a brother machine and you're going to get this particular bobbin case, it is on the website. Again, I'll provide a link for that. And they give you a whole list of machines that are capable to use this bobbin case. Yes. Now, you know, again, when you're buying a specific accessory and they're listing all that, it's because they've already been tested on there. But again, my principles will work if you have an extra bobbin case and you loosen that screw.
Yes. Oh, it's awesome. I feel like I'm going to go home this weekend and I want to try it or try something new out with that bobbin work. It just, it amps up a project so much and just adds that extra oomph, you know?
And you saw, I mean, I love to do embroidery, you know, and I love to do all kinds of embellishment with embroidery, but just adding that extra decorative stitching with a thicker thread. Of course, I added crystals too. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but I added the
I love it
just to oomph it up a little bit. But that's just even another idea. If I were just have traced this shape on the back of the jacket and stitched it,
I didn't see the back.
Sock yarn, you know, I mean, that's where we need to think outside the box too, because sometimes you think, oh, if I'm going to put crystals, then I need shiny thread. Well, I just proved that you don't need shiny thread. I use sock yarn.
If anything, it really helps the crystals kind of pop out more and give it more. I mean, look at them. They're all glistening in there. Are you guys seeing this? I love this.
That contrast in texture, you know, kind of draws the eye and makes the mind curious. And when the mind is curious, it zeroes in on that. And even though we're not, you know, maybe consciously thinking that. So you could definitely use it to accent, even if you're doing embroidery. But the other thing that I love about this is that, you know, I went most of my life without an embroidery machine.
Right.
And so how did I think about doing embellishment? Well, this was one of my ways of doing embellishment. I remember really well, I had a top that I made that was velour and it had a yoke. So on the yoke, I traced leaves on the wrong side of the fabric, stabilized the fabric, and then I did bobbin work on all those leaves. Just so from the front, it looked again like it was hand embroidered or, you know, mimicked the things that we can do.
And like Lady Fair said, it's our little secret.
That's right. That's right.
Needs to know.
Unless you're with fellow sewing friends, because you know what they want to do? They want to go, I want to see the inside. What did you do on that? And how did you, you know?
One thing that I've learned, especially with working here, and I actually used to be a cashier over at San Marcos, our San Marcos retail store, is we need to feel. We need to feel and we need to get our hands on everything. And now I'm doing that every single day, just in normal tasks. I'm like feeling my clothes. Feeling everything. So that's just the thing.
When I was a little girl, my mom used to take us shopping to one particular store that was kind of like a warehouse style store. And she always had to go hunting for me because I would just go down every aisle and touch. Every like I was just touching the garments. I was like 5 years old, you know, but it was already in me that I wanted to touch all that.
You had it in the veins. You just knew.
Yeah. Now I see somebody asked about the newsletter. Again, just go to my website, letsgosew.com. You'll see a link right on the homepage to sign up for my email list. and then you'll be good. You'll be good to go with us.
I know everybody was asking for it. So let's go sew.com. Head over there and you'll find everything you need.
That's it. It's easy to remember. I always say, if I asked you what you wanted to do today, what would you say?
Let's go sew.
Go sew.
It's the perfect answer. It's the perfect answer. Exactly. Well, all right, Joanne, I'm going to go ahead and let you go and do some giveaways. I know you guys are probably waiting for those.
Wonderful. That'll be fun.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, Joanne. We all have learned so much, and we're all just sitting here with popcorn learning from you. So thank you so much.
Thank you again for having me. Happy sewing, and I wish everybody a world full of pretty stitches.
Yes. Oh, I love it. And you will be at Brother back.
I will. I'll be at the Brother convention next week. I'll get to see Blaine in person. And we'll be bringing back all the good news from.
And we'll be live streaming from there. So maybe you'll see Joanne again next week. Who knows?
Yes, I hope so. Definitely.
All right. Bye, Joanne. See you later.
Thank you, Kennedy. Of course. Thanks for being such a great hostess.
Oh, thank you. You too. Thank you for being such an awesome guest.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye. All right, you guys. How are we feeling after that? That was something new that we've had on the show. And I feel like we all have learned so much today. And it's so great. What a great day to start a Friday, right? Let's get into some giveaways, shall we? Let's get some music going and let's start giving away some fun stuff. Okay, so our first giveaway today is going to be some swag. So if you can see, I'll cover my hand right here so you can see the hat. We actually have SMP merch. So you can go onto our merch website. I'll have it dropped down below that you can go check it out. But we have tons of merch designs and fun accessories, bags, shirts, hoodies, everything, baby clothes. We've got some cute little baby clothes designs on there too. But we wanted to give away some merch for you. So we are going to be giving away this adorable Gone Stitching hat. Now, if you have maybe your husband, someone around you, a guy around you, I'm sure you've seen the Gone Fishing hats. Okay, so this is our play on Gone Fishing because we can do a Gone Stitching, right? There's a little machine. It's adorable. So let me get this on here and add this. And let's spin the wheel to see who is going to win this awesome hat. Let's see. Ready? Who's it gonna be? Let's see. Neva Larson, congratulations! You have just won a brand new SMP hat. So go ahead and head to smplive.tv and fill out the information and claim your prize, and we will get that shipped out to you. And yeah, I don't know if you live maybe somewhere where it's warm outside. If you're going outside, gotta protect your head. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so our next giveaway, we are going to be giving away one of our famous sew mats. You guys know them, you love them. It's just a classic. Everyone needs one in their life. They're amazing. I use mine as a pin cushion. You can use it for whatever. Keep your machine on top of it, and it helps with noise and vibration and all of that. It's just amazing. It's a great little mat. We use them on desks, mouse pads. The uses for them are endless. So let's draw and see who is going to win. It's always so suspenseful. I just want everyone to win, you guys. Jane Jarvis, congratulations. You have just won your very own sew mat, and we have tons of different colors and sizes. So head to our website, head to smplive.tv and pick out the color that you want. So we've got our classics. We've got ones that go along with brands. So like Brother, we've got Brother Blue. We've got Baby Lock Gold. We've got Bernina and Janome Red. All the different options, but we also have two new colors. We have an aqua and we have a cherry blossom, which is my favorite. It is adorable and will spice up any sewing room. So head to smplive.tv, pick out your size and color that will go with your machine, and we will get you that sew mat. Okay, guys, I think we're gonna do one more giveaway. One more giveaway today. Kyle, should we give away a machine?
Oh.
I think it's time. I think so. You want to say hi? Let's see. I think we got to do it. I think we should. Okay.
Let's see.
We are going to be giving away a Brother
Star Wars
LV5000S with Star Wars. Okay. So since you guys watched today, you can use this machine to try out that bobbin work. I know some people were saying they didn't have an embroidery machine. Well, here's your chance. Okay. Drum roll. Also, Kyle's got his SMP merch hat on. Everybody's got to get some SMP merch. Okay, ready?
Here we go.
It's always so suspenseful.
Roll.
Let's see. Linda Rose! Congratulations! You have just won a brand new sewing and embroidery machine. Congratulations!
Yay,
Head to smplive.tv and fill out the information, and we will get that new machine sent out to you. Congrats, everyone, on all of those amazing prizes. Okay, let's get back here. Let's get me off of there, and let's get back to it. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and watching today's episode of Tea Time. This is our first episode. We are so excited to be getting this started and doing more shows and getting more involved. It is so great, and we love seeing all the familiar faces and SMP Nation as a whole. You guys are amazing, and we appreciate you all so much. You're the reason we're here, so thank you. Thank you. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take off, but just a reminder, make sure you guys tune in and like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hit the little bell notification so you never miss another SMP Live show. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, and don't forget to head in every single day. You can do our YouTube or our Facebook. So if you head over and like our page on Facebook, you'll see our live shows there as well. So, all right, you guys. That concludes our first week of full shows. How are you guys feeling? I know a lot of you have been on every single day. So I hope you guys are enjoying them. If you guys have any new ideas of what kind of things you want, I saw you guys wanted sewing machine feet on there. I will let the team know, and we will get working on it, because I feel like that will be a great show. But if you have any more ideas, any more things, let us know. Feel free to comment on our YouTube and Facebook, and we will see you next week. We'll see you on Monday. That's new. All right, you guys, have an amazing Friday, and we will see you soon. Bye, guys.